How do you stay calm when everything around you feels chaotic? It's a question that's as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. The ancient Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, understood this struggle deeply. He once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words aren't just a relic of the past. They're a timeless reminder that calmness isn't about controlling the world around us, but mastering how we respond to it. In this video, we'll dive into 30 powerful Stoic techniques designed to help you maintain composure in the face of life's most intense pressures. Whether you're navigating a high-stakes work environment, managing personal challenges, or simply feeling overwhelmed by the pace of modern life, these strategies will give you the tools to stay grounded. So, if you've ever wondered how to find peace when chaos reigns, you're in the right place. Let's explore how Stoic wisdom can transform the way you handle stress and pressure, one practical step at a time. Stoicism teaches us that not everything is within our power. This might sound simple, but it's a profound truth that can change how we approach life's challenges. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies the dichotomy of control, an idea that helps us separate what we can influence from what we simply cannot. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it this way: "Some things are in our control and others are not." His words remind us that trying to control the uncontrollable is a recipe for frustration, while focusing on what we can change is the path to peace. Think about it. When you're stuck in unexpected traffic on your way to an important meeting, does stressing over the delay help, or does it only add to your anxiety? The Stoics would argue that while you can't control the traffic, you can control how you respond to it. Maybe you use that time to breathe deeply, listen to a podcast, or reframe the situation as an opportunity to pause and reflect. By shifting your focus to what's within your power, your thoughts, your actions, your attitude, you reclaim a sense of calm even in the midst of chaos. This principle isn't just about traffic or deadlines. It applies to almost every aspect of life: relationships, career setbacks, health challenges. So much of what we worry about falls outside our direct control. The Stoic approach isn't about ignoring these things, but about recognizing where our energy is best spent. It's about asking ourselves, what's one thing I'm stressing about that's outside my control? And then redirecting our attention to what we can do. This shift in perspective doesn't just reduce anxiety, it empowers us to act with clarity and purpose, no matter what life throws our way. The dichotomy of control is more than a philosophical idea. It's a practical tool for navigating the complexities of modern life. By embracing it, we free ourselves from the weight of trying to control the uncontrollable and focus instead on what truly matters: our own choices, our own growth, and our own peace of mind. What if the worst actually happened? It's a question that might make you uneasy at first. But the Stoics believed that confronting our fears head-on was one of the most powerful ways to build resilience. This practice, known as negative visualization, involves deliberately imagining worst-case scenarios, not to dwell on them, but to prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally. As Seneca famously said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." In other words, our fears and anxieties often grow larger in our minds than they ever would in real life. By visualizing the worst, we strip away the power those fears hold over us and discover that we're far more capable of handling adversity than we might think. Imagine you're about to have a difficult conversation with a colleague or deliver a high-stakes presentation. The thought alone might make your heart race. But what if you took a moment to picture the worst possible outcome? Maybe you stumble over your words or the conversation doesn't go as planned. Now ask yourself, would it really be the end of the world? Chances are, even in that worst-case scenario, you'd find a way to move forward. The act of imagining these challenges doesn't just prepare you for them, it also reduces the fear surrounding them. When you've already faced the worst in your mind, the real thing feels far less intimidating. This technique isn't about pessimism, it's about empowerment. By mentally rehearsing how you'd handle tough situations, you're building a kind of emotional muscle memory. You're training yourself to stay calm, think clearly, and take action even under pressure. And the beauty of negative visualization is that it's not limited to big, life-altering events. You can use it for everyday stressors too, whether it's preparing for a job interview, dealing with a conflict, or even navigating a busy day. Each time you practice, you're strengthening your ability to face uncertainty with confidence. So, here's a question to reflect on. How would you handle your biggest fear if it came true? Take a moment to really think about it. What steps would you take? Who would you turn to for support? And most importantly, what would you learn about yourself in the process? By engaging with these questions, you're not just preparing for the worst, you're also reminding yourself of your own strength and resourcefulness. And that's the essence of Stoic resilience, not avoiding challenges, but meeting them with courage and clarity. Negative visualization might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's a practice that grows more powerful with time. The more you use it, the more you'll find that fear loses its grip and calm becomes your default response. It's a tool that doesn't just help you survive life's storms, it helps you thrive in the midst of them. What if today were your last day? It's a question that might stop you in your tracks, but for the Stoics, it was a daily meditation. This practice, known as Memento Mori, Latin for remember you must die, isn't about dwelling on death in a morbid way. Instead, it's a powerful tool for living more intentionally. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, often reminded himself of this truth. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say." His words weren't meant to instill fear, but to inspire clarity. By keeping the inevitability of death in mind, we're reminded to focus on what truly matters and let go of the distractions that steal our time and energy. Think about it. How often do we get caught up in petty arguments, trivial worries, or tasks that don't really align with our values? The Stoics believed that reflecting on mortality helps us cut through the noise and prioritize what's meaningful. It's not about living in constant fear of the end, but about using the awareness of life's finiteness to live more fully. When you remind yourself that your time is limited, suddenly that heated debate over something insignificant loses its importance. What remains are the things that truly enrich your life, your relationships, your passions, and your growth. This practice isn't just theoretical, it's deeply practical. Start by asking yourself, if I knew my time was limited, would I spend it this way? Maybe you'd choose to call a loved one instead of scrolling through social media, or you'd tackle that creative project you've been putting off. Memento Mori isn't about making drastic changes overnight, but about making small, intentional shifts that align your actions with your values. It's about living with purpose, not out of habit. The beauty of this practice lies in its ability to foster gratitude. When you reflect on the fragility of life, even the smallest moments, a quiet morning, a kind word from a friend, a beautiful sunset, take on new significance. You begin to appreciate what you have rather than fixating on what you lack. This shift in perspective can transform how you approach each day, helping you find joy and meaning in the present moment. So, what would you do differently if you knew your time was limited? Take a moment to really consider this. What priorities would rise to the top? What habits or worries would you let go of? By engaging with this question, you're not just reflecting on death, you're reflecting on life. And that's the heart of Memento Mori, a reminder to live fully, love deeply, and make every moment count. It's a practice that doesn't just ground us in reality, but also elevates us to live with greater intention and gratitude. What if every challenge was a gift? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive, especially when life feels overwhelming or unfair. But the Stoics had a powerful answer to this: Amor Fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. This concept, deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy, invites us to embrace everything that happens to us, not just the good, but the difficult, the unexpected, and even the painful. Friedrich Nietzsche, who admired the Stoics, captured this idea perfectly when he wrote, "Amor Fati, love your fate, which is in fact your life." In other words, instead of resisting or resenting what happens, we can choose to see every experience as an opportunity for growth and transformation. At its core, Amor Fati is about shifting our perspective. It's not about pretending that hardships don't hurt or that failures don't sting. It's about recognizing that even the toughest moments have something to teach us. Think of a time when you faced a major setback. Maybe you lost a job, ended a relationship, or fell short of a goal. In that moment, it likely felt like a crushing blow. But looking back, did it also open new doors? Did it push you to grow in ways you might not have otherwise? The Stoics believed that adversity is often the catalyst for our greatest growth, and by embracing it, we turn obstacles into opportunities. This doesn't mean we have to celebrate every hardship as if it were a blessing. It simply means we can choose to see the value in it. For example, imagine you're working on a project that suddenly falls apart. Instead of dwelling on the frustration, you could ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to improve? By reframing the situation, you're not just coping with it, you're actively finding meaning in it. This shift in mindset can transform how you approach challenges, helping you move from resistance to resilience. One practical way to practice Amor Fati is to reflect on your current struggles and ask, how can I find meaning in this? Maybe a difficult relationship is teaching you patience and empathy. Perhaps a professional setback is pushing you to develop new skills or explore a different path. Even small, everyday frustrations like a delayed flight or a missed opportunity can become moments to practice acceptance and adaptability. The key is to look for the lessons, even in the things you didn't choose or want. The beauty of Amor Fati is that it doesn't just help us endure life's challenges, it helps us thrive through them. By loving our fate, we stop fighting against reality and start working with it. We find strength in acceptance, wisdom in adversity, and ultimately, a deeper sense of peace. So, the next time you face a setback or a struggle, consider this. What if it's not a roadblock but a stepping stone? What if it's exactly what you need to become the person you're meant to be? That's the power of Amor Fati, a reminder that even in the hardest moments, there's something worth loving. What if you plan for the worst while hoping for the best? This is the essence of Premeditatio Malorum, a Stoic practice that translates to the premeditation of evils. At first glance, it might sound overly cautious or even pessimistic, but it's actually one of the most empowering tools for building mental resilience. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, put it simply, "The wise man looks ahead." He didn't mean we should live in constant fear of what could go wrong, but rather that by anticipating challenges, we can face them with clarity and confidence when they arise. Imagine you're about to embark on a new project or start a significant life change. Instead of simply hoping everything will go smoothly, Premeditatio Malorum encourages you to consider what could go wrong. What if a key team member leaves? What if the market shifts unexpectedly? What if you encounter resistance from others? By thinking through these possibilities in advance, you're not just preparing for setbacks, you're also reducing the emotional shock if they occur. This practice isn't about expecting failure, it's about being ready to adapt and persevere no matter what happens. Take relationships, for example. When you enter into a partnership, whether personal or professional, it's easy to focus on the best-case scenario. But what if disagreements arise? What if expectations aren't met? By anticipating these challenges, you can approach the relationship with a more realistic mindset, setting boundaries and having honest conversations early on. This doesn't mean you're inviting conflict. It means you're equipping yourself to handle it constructively if it arises. The beauty of Premeditatio Malorum lies in its practicality. It's not just a mental exercise, it's a way of life. For instance, if you're preparing for a big presentation, you might visualize potential technical issues, tough questions from the audience, or even your own nerves. Then you'd plan how to address each one. Maybe you prepare backup materials, rehearse responses to tricky questions, or practice calming techniques to manage your anxiety. By doing this, you're not just hoping for success, you're actively creating the conditions for it. This practice also helps us cultivate a sense of gratitude. When we anticipate challenges, we're reminded of how much effort goes into creating stability and success. It's easy to take smooth sailing for granted, but when we consider how things could go wrong, we appreciate the effort it takes to keep them on track. This shift in perspective can make us more patient, more resourceful, and more resilient. So, here's a question to reflect on. What obstacles might you face in your current situation, and how can you prepare for them? Think about the challenges that feel daunting or uncertain. How would you respond if they happened? What steps could you take now to make those situations easier to navigate? By engaging with these questions, you're not just planning for the worst, you're building the mental and emotional strength to handle whatever comes your way. Premeditatio Malorum isn't about pessimism, it's about preparedness. It's a reminder that life is unpredictable, but with foresight and planning, we can face its uncertainties with calm and confidence. This practice doesn't just help us survive the storms, it helps us navigate them with grace, turning potential setbacks into opportunities for growth. By anticipating challenges, we're not just preparing for what might go wrong, we're setting ourselves up to thrive, no matter what. When was the last time you truly appreciated what you have? In a world that constantly pushes us to want more success, more possessions, more recognition, it's easy to lose sight of what we already possess. The Stoics, however, understood the profound power of gratitude. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it simply, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not." These words remind us that true contentment doesn't come from acquiring more, but from recognizing and valuing what we already have. Gratitude, in the Stoic sense, isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's a deliberate practice that can transform how we experience life. At its core, gratitude is about perspective. It's about shifting our focus from what's missing to what's present. Think about the last time you felt stressed or overwhelmed. Chances are your mind was fixated on what wasn't going right, a missed deadline, a disagreement, or a goal that felt out of reach. But what if in that moment you paused to notice the things that were going well? Maybe you had a roof over your head, a friend who listened, or even just a quiet moment to breathe. Gratitude doesn't erase challenges, but it helps us see them in a broader context, reducing their emotional weight. This Stoic practice isn't just theoretical, it's deeply practical. Start small. Each day, take a moment to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or life-changing. It could be the warmth of your morning coffee, a kind word from a colleague, or even the simple fact that you woke up healthy. By focusing on these small, everyday blessings, you train your mind to notice the good that's already around you. Over time, this habit can create a profound shift in how you approach life, helping you find joy and peace even in the midst of challenges. The beauty of gratitude lies in its ability to ground us in the present. So often, we're so focused on the future, chasing goals, worrying about outcomes, that we forget to appreciate the here and now. Gratitude pulls us back into the present moment, reminding us that life is happening right now, not in some distant, idealized future. It's a practice that doesn't just reduce stress, it enriches our experience of life, helping us find meaning and fulfillment in the ordinary. So here's a question to reflect on. What are 3 things you're grateful for today? Take a moment to really think about it. Maybe it's the support of a loved one, the beauty of nature, or even the lessons you've learned from a recent challenge. By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing gratitude, you're cultivating a mindset that can transform how you navigate life's ups and downs. It's a simple yet powerful way to shift your focus from what's lacking to what's abundant, and in doing so, you'll find that calmness and clarity come more naturally. Gratitude, as the Stoics knew, is more than a practice, it's a path to peace. How small do your problems seem from space? It's a question that might feel jarring at first, but it's at the heart of a powerful Stoic exercise known as the view from above. This practice invites us to step back, way back, and see our lives from a broader perspective. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, often reflected on this idea. He wrote, "Think of the universe as one living being." His words remind us that we're part of something much larger than ourselves, and our individual struggles, while significant in the moment, are just one small piece of a vast, interconnected whole. When we're caught up in the chaos of daily life, it's easy to feel like our problems are all-consuming. A missed deadline, a disagreement, or a personal setback can feel like the end of the world. But the view from above asks us to zoom out, not to dismiss our challenges, but to put them in context. Imagine looking at Earth from space. Cities, forests, and oceans all blend together into a single, fragile sphere. From that distance, the things that feel so urgent or overwhelming in our day-to-day lives suddenly seem much smaller. This exercise isn't about minimizing your struggles, it's about gaining clarity. When you take a step back, you're able to see the bigger picture. That argument with a colleague, it's just one moment in a long history of interactions. That project that feels like it's falling apart, it's a single chapter in a much larger story. By shifting your perspective, you're not ignoring the problem. You're simply reminding yourself that it's not the only thing that matters. One way to practice the view from above is to imagine your current challenge from a global or even cosmic perspective. Think about the billions of people who are facing their own struggles right now. Think about the countless generations who came before you and the ones who will follow. In the grand scheme of things, how significant is this moment? This doesn't mean your feelings aren't valid. It just means you're giving yourself the space to see beyond them. Another approach is to ask yourself, how will this challenge matter in a year or a decade? Often, we overestimate the long-term impact of our problems. That presentation you're nervous about, the mistake you're beating yourself up over, the conflict you're struggling to resolve, how much will they matter in the future? Chances are they'll fade into the background, becoming just one of many experiences that shape who you are. The beauty of the view from above is that it doesn't just reduce stress, it fosters a sense of connection. When you see yourself as part of a larger whole, it's easier to let go of the need to control every detail. You begin to trust the process, knowing that life is bigger than any single moment or challenge. This perspective can be incredibly freeing, helping you approach difficulties with calm and resilience. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed, try this. Pause, take a deep breath, and imagine looking at your life from a distance. What do you see? What matters most? And how can this broader view help you navigate the challenges in front of you? By practicing the view from above, you're not just gaining perspective, you're reclaiming your peace of mind. It's a reminder that while life's problems may feel huge up close, they're just one small part of a much larger, more beautiful picture. What if writing could help you find peace? It might sound simple, but journaling has been a cornerstone of Stoic practice for centuries. The act of putting pen to paper isn't just about recording events, it's a powerful tool for self-reflection and emotional clarity. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, was a firm believer in the power of journaling. Each night, he would sit down and review his day, asking himself questions like, "What did I do well? Where did I fall short? What can I improve?" This practice wasn't about self-criticism, it was about growth. By reflecting on his actions and thoughts, Seneca gained insight into his own behavior and found ways to align his life more closely with Stoic principles. Journaling works because it forces us to slow down and process our experiences. When we're caught up in the rush of daily life, it's easy to let emotions like frustration, anxiety, or anger build up without examining them. But when we take the time to write about what's bothering us, we create space to untangle those feelings. It's like having a conversation with yourself, one where you can be honest, ask tough questions, and uncover patterns you might not have noticed otherwise. This process doesn't just help us understand our emotions, it also gives us a sense of control over them. One practical way to use journaling as a Stoic tool is to focus on daily challenges and the lessons they teach. For example, if you had a difficult conversation at work, write about what happened, how you felt, and what you might do differently next time. Or if you're feeling overwhelmed, jot down the specific thoughts that are weighing on you. Often, just seeing these thoughts written out can make them feel more manageable. The key is to approach your journal as a space for reflection, not judgment. It's not about finding fault with yourself, it's about understanding and improving. Stoic journaling also encourages us to look for the good, even in difficult situations. After all, the Stoics believed that every challenge carries a lesson. Maybe a setback taught you patience, or a failure showed you where you need to grow. By writing about these experiences, you're not just processing them, you're actively finding meaning in them. Over time, this practice can help you build resilience and a deeper sense of purpose. So, here's a question to reflect on. What's one thing you learned about yourself today? It doesn't have to be profound. Maybe you realized you're more resilient than you thought, or perhaps you noticed a habit you'd like to change. The act of reflecting on this question, even for a few minutes, can help you gain clarity and perspective. And when you make journaling a regular practice, you'll find that it becomes a source of calm and insight, helping you navigate life's challenges with greater ease. Journaling isn't just a way to record your thoughts, it's a way to understand them. By taking the time to reflect on your day, you're not just processing what happened, you're also shaping how you respond to the world. It's a practice that doesn't just bring clarity, it brings peace, and in the busy, often chaotic world we live in, that's a gift worth giving yourself. What if you stopped worrying about the results? It's a radical idea, especially in a world that often measures success by outcomes, grades, promotions, accolades. But the Stoics offer a different perspective. They believe that true peace comes not from controlling the results, but from focusing on what we can control, our effort, our attitude, and our actions. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it simply, "Make the best use of what is in your power." His words remind us that while we can't always dictate how things turn out, we can always choose how we show up. Think about it. When you're preparing for an exam or a job interview, how much of your energy goes into worrying about the outcome? What if you shifted that focus to the process itself, studying thoroughly, practicing your answers, or refining your skills? The Stoics would argue that by concentrating on the effort, you're not just reducing anxiety, you're also setting yourself up to perform at your best. After all, isn't it better to walk into that interview knowing you've prepared as well as you can, rather than obsessing over whether you'll get the job? This practice of detachment isn't about apathy or giving up. It's about redirecting your energy to what truly matters, the things within your control. For instance, imagine you're working on a creative project. You pour your heart into it, but when it's finished, the reception isn't what you hoped for. If you're attached to the outcome, that disappointment can feel crushing. But if you focus on the effort you put in, the hours of work, the passion you brought to the process, you can still feel proud of what you've accomplished regardless of the results. One practical way to practice detachment is to ask yourself, what's one thing I can control in this situation? Maybe it's your preparation, your mindset, or even how you respond to feedback. By identifying that one controllable element, you're not just reducing stress, you're also empowering yourself to take meaningful action. Over time, this shift in focus can transform how you approach challenges, helping you stay calm and centered even when things don't go as planned. The beauty of this Stoic practice is that it doesn't just apply to big, life-changing events. You can use it in everyday moments too. Maybe you're waiting for a text back, hoping for a promotion, or even just trying to get your kids to eat their vegetables. In each of these situations, there's something you can control and a lot you can't. By letting go of the need to control the outcome, you free yourself to focus on what truly matters, your own effort, your own growth, and your own peace of mind. So here's a question to reflect on. What's one thing you're currently worrying about that's outside your control? And more importantly, what's one thing you can control in that situation? By shifting your focus to the effort, you're not just reducing anxiety, you're also reclaiming your power. And that's the essence of Stoic detachment, not avoiding challenges, but facing them with clarity, purpose, and calm. It's a reminder that while we can't always control the results, we can always control how we show up, and that's where true strength lies. What if everything you love is temporary? It's a thought that might feel unsettling, but it's also one of the most profound truths the Stoics embraced. Change is an inescapable part of life. Relationships shift, careers evolve, and even the things we hold dearest eventually transform or fade. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, captured this reality perfectly when he wrote, "Everything is ephemeral." His words aren't meant to discourage us, but to remind us that accepting impermanence is the key to finding peace in a constantly shifting world. At its core, this Stoic principle is about letting go of the illusion of permanence. We often cling to what we have, our possessions, our roles, even our relationships, as if they'll last forever. But when we resist change, we create unnecessary suffering. Think about it. Have you ever felt anxious about losing something you care about? Maybe it's your job, your health, or even a friendship. That fear of loss often stems from the belief that these things are supposed to stay the same. But the Stoics teach us that by accepting their impermanence, we can reduce that fear and live more freely. This mindset doesn't mean we stop caring or stop striving. It simply means we approach life with a lighter touch. Imagine you're moving to a new city. You might feel sad about leaving behind familiar places and people, but if you focus on the opportunities ahead, new connections, new experiences, you can approach the change with excitement rather than dread. The same applies to career shifts, relationships, or even aging. By embracing the temporary nature of things, we open ourselves to growth and new possibilities. One practical way to practice this acceptance is to reflect on the impermanence of your current situation. For instance, if you're in a job you love, remind yourself that it won't last forever, not because it's doomed to fail, but because life is full of change. This perspective can help you appreciate what you have while it lasts without clinging to it so tightly that you fear its end. It's a way of living with gratitude and openness rather than anxiety and resistance. So here's a question to reflect on. How can you embrace change in your life right now? Maybe it's a small shift, like letting go of a habit that no longer serves you, or a bigger one, like preparing for a major life transition. Whatever it is, consider how accepting its impermanence could help you approach it with more calm and clarity. By doing this, you're not just adapting to change, you're learning to thrive within it. Embracing impermanence isn't about giving up on what matters. It's about holding it lightly, appreciating it fully, and being ready to let it go when the time comes. This Stoic practice doesn't just reduce fear, it enriches our experience of life, helping us find beauty and meaning in every fleeting moment. It's a reminder that while nothing lasts forever, everything has the potential to teach us something profound. And in that acceptance, we find a deeper, more enduring kind of peace. What if you paused before responding? It's a simple question, but it holds the key to one of the most powerful Stoic practices, the discipline of Ascent. This concept, rooted in Stoic philosophy, teaches us to take a moment, no matter how brief, before reacting to a situation. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic thinkers, captured it perfectly when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react." His words remind us that while we can't always control what happens in life, we can control how we respond, and that pause, that moment of reflection, can make all the difference. At its core, the discipline of Ascent is about interrupting the automatic cycle of reaction. Think about it. How often do we respond to a comment, a setback, or a stressful moment without really thinking? We say things we later regret, make decisions out of frustration, or let our emotions take the wheel. But what if, instead of reacting immediately, we took a breath? What if we gave ourselves even a few seconds to consider our response? That small pause can be the space where calmness replaces chaos, where wisdom replaces impulsiveness. This practice isn't just about avoiding mistakes, it's about cultivating self-awareness. When we pause, we're giving ourselves the chance to ask, is this reaction helpful? Is it aligned with my values, or am I just acting on impulse? By doing this, we're not just reacting, we're choosing, and that choice is where true strength lies. It's the difference between being controlled by our emotions and being in control of them. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're in a heated conversation with a colleague. They say something that feels dismissive or critical, and your first instinct is to fire back. But instead of letting that instinct take over, you pause. In that moment, you might realize that responding defensively will only escalate the situation. So you take a breath, gather your thoughts, and choose a calmer, more constructive response. That pause doesn't just prevent conflict, it transforms the interaction entirely. This practice isn't limited to arguments or stressful moments. It can be just as powerful in everyday situations. Maybe you're running late, stuck in traffic, or dealing with a frustrating email. Instead of letting frustration take over, you pause. You remind yourself that the situation is temporary and your reaction is within your control. That small shift in mindset can turn a stressful moment into an opportunity for growth. So, here's a reflective prompt to consider. What's one situation where pausing could help you respond better? It doesn't have to be a big, dramatic moment. It could be something as simple as a disagreement with a loved one or a minor setback at work. By identifying that situation and practicing the discipline of Ascent, you're not just improving your response, you're building a habit of calm, thoughtful action. The beauty of this practice is that it's accessible to everyone. You don't need to be a Stoic philosopher to benefit from it. You just need to be willing to pause. Over time, those pauses add up. They become a way of life, helping you navigate challenges with clarity and composure. And in a world that often feels rushed and reactive, that's a skill worth cultivating. The discipline of Ascent isn't just a Stoic practice, it's a pathway to peace, one thoughtful pause at a time. What if peace was always within you? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive in a world that often ties our sense of calm to external factors, perfect weather, a quiet environment, or a stress-free schedule. But the Stoics believed that true peace isn't something we find outside ourselves. It's something we cultivate within. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it beautifully when he said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present." His words remind us that inner tranquility isn't about controlling the chaos around us. It's about finding stillness in the midst of it. At its core, this Stoic principle is about shifting our focus from what we can't control to what we can, our own thoughts, reactions, and mindset. Think about it. When you're stuck in a noisy, crowded space, do you let the external noise dictate your inner state, or do you choose to create your own sense of calm? The Stoics would argue that even in the most chaotic environments, we have the power to anchor ourselves in peace. This doesn't mean ignoring the noise or pretending it doesn't exist. It means recognizing that our inner world doesn't have to mirror the outer one. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're in the middle of a hectic workday. Emails are piling up, deadlines are looming, and your phone won't stop buzzing. In that moment, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, as if your peace is being stolen by the chaos around you. But what if, instead of letting the external noise take over, you paused for just a moment? Maybe you close your eyes, take a deep breath, and remind yourself, this is just the outer world. My inner world is mine to shape. That small shift in perspective can help you reclaim a sense of calm, even in the busiest moments. This practice isn't just about surviving the chaos, it's about thriving within it. By cultivating inner peace, you're not just reacting to life's challenges, you're responding to them with clarity and intention. Over time, this mindset becomes a habit, helping you navigate even the most stressful situations with a steady hand and a calm heart. So, here's a reflective question to consider. What's one way you can cultivate peace today? Maybe it's taking a few minutes to meditate, setting boundaries to protect your energy, or simply reminding yourself that your inner world is yours to shape. By engaging with this question, you're not just reflecting on peace, you're actively creating it. And that's the essence of Stoic tranquility. Not waiting for the world to calm down, but finding calm within yourself, no matter what's happening around you. Inner peace isn't a destination, it's a practice. It's about choosing, moment by moment, to anchor yourself in stillness, even when life feels like a storm. And in that choice, you'll find a resilience and serenity that nothing and no one can take away. What if you chose discomfort to build strength? It might sound counterintuitive, but the Stoics believed that voluntarily enduring discomfort is one of the most effective ways to cultivate resilience and gratitude. This practice, known as self-denial, isn't about punishing yourself or seeking unnecessary hardship. Instead, it's about training your mind and body to handle life's inevitable challenges with grace and strength. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, captured this idea perfectly when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." In other words, the very things that feel difficult or uncomfortable can become the stepping stones to our growth. At its core, self-denial is about building mental and emotional muscle. Think of it like this: when you lift weights, you're intentionally stressing your muscles to make them stronger. The same principle applies here. By choosing to face small discomforts, you're preparing yourself to handle larger ones with ease. This practice isn't just about physical endurance, it's about developing a mindset that can adapt to whatever life throws your way. When you're used to pushing through discomfort, setbacks and challenges feel less overwhelming because you've already trained yourself to endure. So, what does this look like in practice? One modern example is fasting. By voluntarily skipping a meal or two, you're not only giving your body a break, but also teaching your mind to resist immediate gratification. It's a reminder that you can go without something you typically rely on and still be okay. Another example is taking cold showers. While it might feel unpleasant at first, the act of enduring that initial shock builds mental toughness and helps you appreciate the comfort of warmth even more. These small acts of self-denial might seem trivial, but over time they add up, creating a foundation of resilience that can carry you through life's tougher moments. This practice also fosters gratitude. When you deliberately step away from comfort, even briefly, you gain a deeper appreciation for what you have. It's easy to take things like food, warmth, or convenience for granted when they're always available. But when you experience their absence, even in a controlled way, you're reminded of how much they enrich your life. This shift in perspective can make everyday comforts feel like gifts rather than entitlements. So here's a question to reflect on. What's one small discomfort you can embrace today? Maybe it's walking instead of driving, turning off your phone for an hour, or even just sitting with a difficult emotion instead of distracting yourself. Whatever it is, consider how choosing that discomfort could help you grow stronger and more resilient. By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing self-denial, you're taking a small but powerful step toward mastering your own mind and emotions. It's a practice that doesn't just build strength, it builds gratitude, perspective, and peace. And in a world that often prioritizes comfort above all else, that's a skill worth cultivating. What if you spoke less and listened more? This simple shift in focus is at the heart of a powerful Stoic practice, the art of silence. For the Stoics, silence wasn't just the absence of words. It was a deliberate choice to create space for understanding, reflection, and connection. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it beautifully when he said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason." His words remind us that listening is not just a passive act, it's an active skill that can transform how we relate to the world and the people in it. At its core, silence is about humility. It's about recognizing that we don't always have all the answers, and that's okay. When we choose to listen instead of speaking, we're opening ourselves up to new perspectives, ideas, and experiences. Think about the last time you had a conversation where you truly focused on what the other person was saying, without planning your next response or jumping in to share your own thoughts. That kind of listening doesn't just make the other person feel valued, it also deepens your own understanding. This practice isn't just about improving communication, it's also about reducing conflict. So often, misunderstandings arise because we're too focused on getting our point across rather than truly hearing the other person. By choosing silence, we create a space where both sides can be heard and where solutions can emerge naturally. Imagine a disagreement where both parties pause to listen rather than argue. That pause can be the difference between escalation and resolution. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're in a meeting at work and tensions are running high. Everyone is talking over each other, trying to make their voice heard. Instead of adding to the noise, you decide to step back and listen. As you do, you start to notice patterns in the conversation, what people are really worried about, where the common ground lies. When you finally speak, your words are thoughtful, measured, and grounded in what you've observed. That's the power of silence in action. The beauty of this practice is that it's accessible to everyone. You don't need special training or tools, just the willingness to pause and listen. Over time, this habit can transform not just your conversations, but your relationships and even your sense of self. When you listen deeply, you're not just hearing words, you're connecting with people on a deeper level. So here's a reflective prompt to consider. When was the last time you truly listened without interrupting? It's a simple question, but it can reveal so much about how we engage with the world. By practicing the art of silence, you're not just becoming a better listener, you're becoming a more thoughtful, compassionate, and present person. And in a world that often feels noisy and rushed, that's a gift worth giving to yourself and to others. What if you stopped trying to prove yourself? It's a question that might feel uncomfortable at first, especially in a world that often rewards confidence, ambition, and self-promotion. But the Stoics saw humility as a cornerstone of inner peace and genuine connection. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity." His words remind us that humility isn't about diminishing our worth. It's about recognizing our limitations, embracing vulnerability, and finding strength in authenticity. At its core, humility is about letting go of the need to constantly prove ourselves. Think about it. How much energy do we waste trying to appear competent, knowledgeable, or in control? When we're focused on proving ourselves, we're often operating from a place of fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. But humility flips the script. It allows us to say, I don't know, or I need help, or even I made a mistake. And in doing so, it reduces the pressure we put on ourselves to be perfect. This Stoic virtue isn't just about personal growth, it's also about fostering connection. When we approach others with humility, we create space for collaboration and mutual respect. Imagine a leader who openly admits they don't have all the answers, someone who values the input of their team and isn't afraid to ask for help. That kind of humility doesn't weaken their authority, it strengthens it. It builds trust and encourages others to bring their best selves to the table. So how can you practice humility in your own life? Start small. Maybe it's admitting when you're wrong, even if it's uncomfortable. Or perhaps it's asking for help on a project instead of trying to do everything yourself. Even something as simple as listening more and talking less can be an act of humility. The key is to shift your focus from proving yourself to improving yourself, and in doing so, you'll find that the pressure to be perfect starts to fade. Here's a reflective question to consider. What's one area where you can practice humility today? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It could be as simple as acknowledging a mistake, deferring to someone else's expertise, or even just giving yourself permission to not have all the answers. By engaging with this question, you're taking a step toward a more grounded, authentic way of living. And in that authenticity, you'll find a deeper sense of calm and connection. Humility isn't about shrinking yourself, it's about expanding your perspective. It's a reminder that we're all works in progress, learning and growing together. And in that shared journey, there's no need to prove anything, only to be present, open, and willing to grow. That's the power of Stoic humility. It doesn't just reduce stress, it enriches every interaction, every moment, and every relationship in your life. What if you stopped worrying about the past or future? It's a question that cuts to the heart of one of the most transformative Stoic practices, the power of presence. For the Stoics, being fully present wasn't just a philosophical idea, it was a way of life. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, captured this beautifully when he wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." His words remind us that peace isn't found in dwelling on what's already happened or fretting about what might come next. It's found in the here and now, in the moments we're living right this second. At its core, presence is about focus. When we're fully engaged in the present moment, we're not distracted by regrets about the past or anxieties about the future. Think about it. How often do we lose ourselves in thoughts of what we should have done differently or what could go wrong tomorrow? That mental clutter doesn't just drain our energy, it robs us of the richness of the moment we're actually in. The Stoics believed that by anchoring ourselves in the present, we could reduce anxiety, sharpen our focus, and find a deeper sense of calm. This practice isn't just about abstract thinking, it's deeply practical. Take something as simple as washing dishes. When you're fully present, you notice the warmth of the water, the texture of the soap, the rhythm of your movements. It becomes more than just a chore. It's an opportunity to be mindful, to connect with the simple act of doing. The same applies to conversations, work tasks, or even moments of rest. When we're fully present, we're not just going through the motions, we're truly living. The beauty of presence lies in its simplicity. You don't need special tools or training to practice it, just a willingness to pay attention. Start by choosing one small activity to focus on fully. Maybe it's savoring your morning coffee, noticing the details of your walk to work, or really listening to a loved one when they speak. Each time you bring your full attention to the moment, you're training your mind to let go of distractions and embrace the present. So, here's a reflective question to consider. What's one thing you can focus on fully right now? It doesn't have to be grand or profound. It could be as simple as the feel of your breath, the sound of birds outside, or the task in front of you. By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing presence, you're reclaiming the richness of your own life. The power of presence isn't just about reducing stress, it's about enhancing the quality of every moment. When we're fully present, we're not just surviving life, we're savoring it. And in that savoring, we find a deeper, more enduring kind of peace. It's a reminder that the present moment isn't just a stepping stone to the future, it's the place where life actually happens. And when we learn to live there, everything changes. What if you stopped rushing and trusted the process? In a world that often glorifies speed and instant results, the Stoic virtue of patience stands as a powerful counterbalance. Patience isn't just about waiting, it's about cultivating a mindset that allows us to endure challenges, embrace uncertainty, and grow through the process. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it simply, "No great thing is created suddenly." His words remind us that meaningful growth, whether in relationships, careers, or personal development, takes time. And by practicing patience, we not only reduce frustration, but also open ourselves to the deeper lessons that come with perseverance. At its core, patience is about shifting our focus from the outcome to the journey. Think about it, when we're fixated on achieving a goal quickly, every delay feels like a setback. But when we embrace patience, we start to see those delays as opportunities to learn, adapt, and strengthen our resolve. Imagine planting a seed. You wouldn't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. Instead, you trust that with time, water, and sunlight, it will flourish. The same principle applies to our own lives. By letting go of the need for immediate results, we create space for growth that's not just faster, but deeper and more enduring. This practice isn't just theoretical, it's deeply practical. Take relationships, for example. How often do we expect immediate understanding or change from others? Maybe a friend isn't responding the way we'd like, or a partner isn't meeting our expectations. In those moments, patience allows us to step back and see the bigger picture. It reminds us that meaningful connections are built over time through small, consistent acts of care and understanding. By practicing patience, we're not just reducing conflict, we're nurturing relationships that can withstand the test of time. The same applies to career goals. Whether you're working toward a promotion, building a business, or mastering a new skill, progress often feels slower than we'd like. But what if, instead of fixating on the end result, you focused on the small, daily steps that move you forward? By embracing patience, you're not just enduring the process, you're fully engaging with it, learning from each challenge and celebrating each small victory along the way. So, here's a reflective question to consider. What's one thing you can wait for without frustration? Maybe it's a long-term project at work, a personal goal you've been working toward, or even a difficult conversation that needs time to unfold. By identifying that one thing and practicing patience, you're not just reducing stress, you're also building resilience and trust in the process. And in that trust, you'll find a deeper, more enduring kind of peace. Patience isn't just a virtue, it's a practice. It's about choosing to see delays not as obstacles, but as opportunities to grow. It's about trusting that even when progress feels slow, every step forward matters. And in that trust, you'll discover that the journey itself is where the real magic happens. What if every action you took was intentional? This is the essence of the Stoic discipline of action, a practice that challenges us to live with purpose and alignment to our deepest values. The Stoics believed that our actions, no matter how small, should reflect what truly matters to us. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, captured this idea perfectly when he wrote, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. B1. His words remind us that living a meaningful life isn't about endless debate or planning. It's about taking deliberate, purposeful steps toward the person we aspire to become. At its core, the discipline of action is about alignment. It's about ensuring that what we do each day reflects who we are and what we stand for. Think about it. How often do we go through the motions, acting out of habit or obligation rather than intention? Maybe we say yes to things we don't truly care about, or we spend time on tasks that don't align with our goals. The Stoics would argue that every action, no matter how small, is an opportunity to live in accordance with our values. This practice isn't just about lofty ideals, it's deeply practical. Consider setting a meaningful goal. It's easy to dream about what we want to achieve, but the real work lies in the daily actions that move us closer to that goal. For example, if you value health, it's not enough to simply desire it. You have to take intentional steps, like choosing nutritious meals or making time for exercise. Each of these small, deliberate actions adds up, creating a life that reflects your values in tangible ways. Let's bring this to life with a modern example. Imagine you're working on a project that feels overwhelming. Instead of diving in without a plan, you take a moment to ask yourself, what's the most meaningful step I can take right now? Maybe it's breaking the project into smaller tasks, focusing on the most impactful one, or even seeking feedback from a colleague. By approaching the task with intention, you're not just checking a box, you're ensuring that your effort aligns with your broader goals. The beauty of this practice lies in its simplicity. You don't need grand gestures or dramatic changes to live with purpose. It's about making small, consistent choices that reflect what matters most to you. Over time, these choices create a life that feels not just busy, but deeply meaningful. So, here's a reflective question to consider. What's one action you can take today that aligns with your values? It doesn't have to be a massive undertaking. It could be as simple as reaching out to a friend, dedicating time to a passion project, or even just pausing to reflect on your priorities. By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing the discipline of action, you're creating a life that feels intentional and true to who you are. The Stoic discipline of action isn't just about doing more, it's about doing what matters. It's a reminder that every choice, every step, every moment is an opportunity to live with purpose. And in that purpose, you'll find not just fulfillment, but a deeper sense of peace. What if you approached others with understanding? It's a question that challenges us to look beyond our own perspectives and connect with the people around us. For the Stoics, compassion wasn't just a feeling, it was a deliberate practice, a way of engaging with the world that reduced conflict and deepened relationships. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, captured this beautifully when he said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." His words remind us that compassion isn't limited to grand gestures. It's found in the small, everyday moments where we choose to see and respond to the humanity in others. At its core, Stoic compassion is about recognizing that everyone is fighting their own battles. Think about it. How often do we judge someone based on their actions without considering what might be driving them? Maybe a coworker snaps at you under stress, or a friend seems distant when you need their support. It's easy to react with frustration or hurt, but what if instead you pause to consider what they might be going through? That shift in perspective doesn't just soften your response, it creates space for understanding and connection. This practice isn't just about being kind, it's about building resilience. When we approach others with empathy, we're less likely to take their actions personally. Instead of seeing someone's harsh words as an attack, we can view them as a reflection of their own struggles. This doesn't mean we excuse harmful behavior, but it does mean we respond with clarity and compassion rather than defensiveness. Over time, this mindset can transform how we navigate conflicts, helping us find common ground even in the most challenging situations. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're in a difficult conversation with a loved one. Maybe they're upset about something you did and tensions are rising. Instead of immediately defending yourself, you take a moment to listen deeply. You ask yourself, what might they be feeling? What's driving their reaction? By approaching the conversation with empathy, you're not just diffusing the tension, you're also creating an opportunity for genuine resolution. The beauty of this practice lies in its simplicity. You don't need to solve someone's problems or have all the answers to show compassion. Sometimes it's as simple as offering a kind word, a listening ear, or even just the willingness to see things from their perspective. These small acts of empathy can have a ripple effect, not just in your relationships, but in your own sense of peace and fulfillment. So, here's a question to reflect on. Who in your life needs compassion right now? It could be someone close to you, a colleague, or even a stranger you encounter in your day-to-day life. Take a moment to consider how you might show understanding in a way that feels meaningful to them. By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing compassion, you're cultivating a mindset that transforms how you connect with others and navigate the world. Compassion, as the Stoics understood, isn't just about being nice, it's about building bridges. It's a reminder that even in moments of conflict or misunderstanding, we have the power to choose empathy over judgment, kindness over resentment. And in that choice, we find not just deeper connections, but a more peaceful way of being. It's a practice that doesn't just change how we see others, it changes how we see ourselves. What if fear didn't stop you? It's a question that cuts to the heart of one of the most powerful Stoic virtues, courage. For the Stoics, courage wasn't about being fearless, it was about choosing to act despite fear. It's a subtle but profound distinction. Too often, we think of courage as something reserved for heroes in epic tales, but the truth is, courage is a choice we make every day. It's the decision to show up, to stand up, and to keep going, even when everything in us wants to turn away. Let's start with what courage isn't. It's not the absence of fear. In fact, the Stoics believed that fear is a natural part of life. It's how we respond to it that matters. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it this way: it's not what happens to you, but how you react. His words remind us that we can't always control the challenges we face, but we can control how we face them. That's where courage comes in. It's not about eliminating fear, it's about refusing to let fear dictate our actions. So, what does this look like in practice? Imagine you're about to speak up in a meeting, but you're worried your idea might be dismissed. Or maybe you're considering a career change, but the uncertainty of starting over feels overwhelming. In both cases, fear is present, but courage is the choice to move forward anyway. It's the willingness to take a risk, to be vulnerable, and to trust that even if things don't go as planned, you'll handle it. That's the essence of Stoic courage, not avoiding fear, but embracing it as part of the journey. This principle isn't just about big, dramatic moments. It applies to the small, everyday challenges too. Maybe it's having a difficult conversation with a loved one, setting a boundary at work, or even just admitting when you're wrong. Each of these moments requires courage, and each one is an opportunity to practice the Stoic virtue of facing challenges bravely. Here's a reflective question to consider. What's one fear you can face today? It doesn't have to be a life-altering decision or a monumental risk. It could be as simple as speaking up when you'd normally stay quiet, or trying something new that feels a little intimidating. By identifying that one fear and choosing to face it, you're not just practicing courage, you're building a habit of resilience that will serve you in every area of life. Courage, as the Stoics understood it, isn't about grand gestures or heroic acts. It's about the small, consistent choices we make to act in alignment with our values, even when it's hard. It's about showing up day after day and trusting that the effort is worth it. And in that trust, you'll find a strength that goes beyond fear, a strength that allows you to face life's challenges with clarity, purpose, and calm. So, the next time fear shows up, remember this. It's not the absence of fear that defines courage, it's the choice to move forward anyway. And in that choice, you'll discover a power that's been within you all along. What if you needed less to be happy? It's a question that challenges the way we often approach life, especially in a world that constantly tells us we need more possessions, more achievements, more validation. The Stoics, however, saw simplicity as a path to freedom and contentment. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, put it this way: "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." His words remind us that true wealth isn't about accumulating things. It's about freeing ourselves from the endless desire for more. At its core, simplicity is about clarity. When we strip away the excess, whether it's physical clutter, mental distractions, or emotional baggage, we create space for what truly matters. Think about it. How often do we feel overwhelmed not because life is inherently complicated, but because we've piled on unnecessary layers? The Stoics believed that by simplifying our lives, we reduce stress and open ourselves to a deeper sense of peace. It's not about living with nothing. It's about living with intention, choosing only what adds value to our lives. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine your workspace. Is it cluttered with papers, gadgets, and items you rarely use? Or your schedule? Is it packed with commitments that leave you drained rather than fulfilled? Simplicity invites us to ask, what can I let go of? Maybe it's clearing out a drawer, saying no to an unnecessary obligation, or even just turning off notifications for an hour. Each small act of simplification creates room for focus, calm, and joy. This practice isn't just about physical possessions, it's also about mental and emotional clarity. Consider the thoughts and worries that occupy your mind. Are they serving you, or are they adding unnecessary weight? By practicing simplicity, we learn to let go of what doesn't serve us, whether it's a grudge, a fear, or an unrealistic expectation. In doing so, we make space for gratitude, creativity, and connection. The beauty of simplicity lies in its accessibility. You don't need to overhaul your entire life to start benefiting from it. Begin with one small change. Maybe it's decluttering a single space, simplifying a daily routine, or even just pausing to appreciate the things you already have. Over time, these small shifts add up, creating a life that feels not just lighter, but richer in meaning. So, here's a reflective question to consider. What's one thing you can let go of today? It could be a physical item, a mental habit, or even an emotional burden. By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing simplicity, you're reclaiming your focus and your peace. Simplicity, as the Stoics understood, isn't about deprivation, it's about liberation. It's a reminder that happiness doesn't come from having more, it comes from needing less. And in that shift, we find a deeper, more enduring kind of contentment. It's a practice that doesn't just change how we live, it changes how we feel moment by moment, day by day. What if you learn from every day? This simple question lies at the heart of one of the most transformative Stoic practices, daily reflection. For the Stoics, reflection wasn't just about looking back, it was a way to grow, to understand ourselves more deeply, and to align our actions with our values. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, captured this beautifully when he wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive." His words remind us that each day is a gift, and by reflecting on it, we can uncover lessons that help us live more intentionally. At its core, reflection is about creating space to pause and process. In the rush of daily life, it's easy to move from one task to the next without truly understanding what we're experiencing or how we're growing. But when we take the time to reflect, we're not just recounting events, we're engaging with them. We're asking questions like, what went well? What could I improve? What did I learn? This process doesn't just help us make sense of our day, it helps us make sense of ourselves. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you've just finished a busy day at work. Instead of simply moving on to the next thing, you take 5 minutes to reflect. Maybe you jot down a few notes about a project that went well, a conversation that felt meaningful, or even a moment where you felt frustrated. By doing this, you're not just recording what happened, you're actively processing it. You're identifying patterns, celebrating successes, and finding opportunities for growth. Over time, this habit becomes a powerful tool for self-awareness and improvement. The Stoic practice of reflection also encourages us to focus on gratitude. Each day, no matter how challenging, offers something to be thankful for. Maybe it's a small win at work, a kind gesture from a friend, or simply the fact that you woke up healthy and able to face the day. By reflecting on these moments, you're not just acknowledging them, you're deepening your appreciation for them. This shift in perspective can transform how you experience life, helping you find joy and meaning even in the most ordinary moments. So, here's a reflective prompt to consider. What's one thing you learned today? It doesn't have to be profound, maybe it's a new insight about yourself, a small improvement in how you handled a situation, or even just a reminder to slow down. By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing reflection, you're actively shaping how you grow and how you live. Daily reflection isn't just a practice, it's a way of living with intention. It's about taking the time to learn from each day, to celebrate what went well, and to grow from what didn't. And in that process, you'll find not just clarity and growth, but a deeper connection to your own life. It's a simple yet profound way to ensure that every day, no matter how ordinary, becomes a step toward becoming the person you aspire to be. What if you stayed calm no matter what? It's a question that lies at the heart of the Stoic practice of equanimity, a steady, unshakable balance that allows us to face life's ups and downs with grace and composure. For the Stoics, equanimity wasn't about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. It was about cultivating a mindset that remains steady, even in the face of chaos. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it simply, "No man is free who is not master of himself." His words remind us that true freedom comes from mastering our reactions, not from controlling the world around us. Equanimity is about reducing the emotional extremes that often dominate our lives. Think about it. How often do we swing between highs and lows, excitement one moment, frustration the next? When traffic ruins our morning or a colleague's comment rubs us the wrong way, it's easy to let those moments dictate our mood. But equanimity invites us to step back, to breathe, and to respond rather than react. It's not about ignoring the situation, it's about choosing how we engage with it. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're in the middle of a heated argument with a loved one. Voices are raised, emotions are running high, and it feels like the conversation is spiraling out of control. In that moment, equanimity isn't about staying silent or pretending you're not upset. It's about pausing, taking a deep breath, and choosing your words carefully. It's about recognizing that while you can't control the other person's emotions or actions, you can control your own. By responding with calm and clarity, you're not just diffusing the tension, you're also setting the tone for a more constructive resolution. The beauty of equanimity is that it's not just for big, dramatic moments. It's equally powerful in the small, everyday challenges we all face. Maybe it's a missed deadline, a rude comment online, or even just a spilled cup of coffee. In each of these moments, equanimity gives us the space to respond with intention rather than react with frustration. Over time, this practice becomes a habit, helping us navigate life's challenges with a steadier hand and a calmer heart. So here's a reflective question to consider. How can you maintain balance in your current challenge? Whether it's a conflict at work, a personal setback, or even just a stressful day, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what's one way I can respond with calm and clarity? By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing equanimity, you're building a mindset that can handle whatever life throws your way. Equanimity isn't about avoiding life's storms, it's about learning to stand steady within them. It's a reminder that while we can't control the waves, we can always choose how we navigate them. And in that choice, we find a deeper, more enduring kind of peace, one that doesn't just help us survive life's challenges, but truly thrive within them. What if every choice you made was wise? This question lies at the heart of the Stoic pursuit of wisdom, a guiding principle that can transform how we navigate life's decisions. For the Stoics, wisdom wasn't just about knowledge or intelligence, it was about applying that knowledge thoughtfully with clarity and purpose. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, captured this beautifully when he said, "As is a tale, so is life, not how long it is, but how good it is." His words remind us that the quality of our lives isn't measured by the number of years we live, but by the wisdom we bring to each moment. At its core, wisdom is about making choices that align with our values and long-term goals. It's about seeing beyond the immediate and considering the broader impact of our actions. Think about it. How often do we make decisions based on impulse, convenience, or the pressure of the moment? Whether it's a financial choice, a career move, or even how we respond in a heated conversation, wisdom invites us to pause and ask, what's the best path forward, not just for right now, but for the future? This Stoic virtue isn't just about avoiding mistakes, it's about cultivating a mindset that reduces regret. When we act wisely, we're less likely to look back with frustration or disappointment. Instead, we can reflect on our choices with a sense of clarity and confidence, knowing that we did our best with the information and resources we had at the time. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're faced with a major financial decision. Maybe you're considering a big purchase or deciding how to invest your savings. Instead of acting on impulse or following the latest trend, you take the time to research, weigh the pros and cons, and consider how this choice aligns with your long-term goals. By approaching the decision with wisdom, you're not just protecting your financial future, you're also building a habit of thoughtful, intentional action. The same principle applies to relationships. When conflicts arise, wisdom invites us to step back and consider the bigger picture. Maybe a loved one says something hurtful, and your first instinct is to react defensively. But wisdom asks, what's the best way to address this, not just to win the argument, but to strengthen the relationship? By choosing to respond with understanding and patience, you're not just resolving the immediate issue, you're fostering a deeper connection. So, here's a reflective question to consider. What's one wise choice you can make today? It doesn't have to be a life-altering decision. It could be as simple as pausing before speaking in a difficult conversation, setting aside time to plan for a future goal, or even just choosing to let go of a minor annoyance. By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing wisdom, you're shaping a life that feels more intentional, more aligned, and more fulfilling. Wisdom, as the Stoics understood it, isn't just about making the right choices, it's about making thoughtful ones. It's a reminder that every decision, no matter how small, is an opportunity to live with greater clarity and purpose. And in those choices, you'll find not just peace of mind, but a deeper sense of meaning and direction. It's a practice that doesn't just change how you make decisions, it changes how you experience life itself. What if you stopped resisting what is? This question lies at the heart of the Stoic practice of acceptance, a powerful way to reduce suffering and find peace in the midst of life's challenges. For the Stoics, acceptance wasn't about giving up or resigning ourselves to fate. It was about seeing reality clearly and choosing to engage with it on our own terms. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, put it simply, "Accept the things to which fate binds you." His words remind us that while we can't always control what happens, we can always control how we respond. And in that response, we find freedom. At its core, acceptance is about letting go of the struggle against what we can't change. Think about it. How often do we waste energy fighting against reality, whether it's a traffic jam, a missed opportunity, or even a personal limitation? That resistance doesn't just drain us, it amplifies our suffering. The Stoics believed that by accepting what is, we free ourselves from the emotional weight of denial, anger, or frustration. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about acknowledging the truth and finding a way forward from there. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you've been passed over for a promotion you worked hard for. It's natural to feel disappointment, maybe even anger or self-doubt. But what happens if you resist that reality? If you dwell on how unfair it is, or replay the situation in your mind, wishing it had gone differently? That resistance only deepens the pain. Now, imagine instead that you pause and say, "This is what's happened. I can't change it, but I can choose how I move forward." By accepting the situation, you're not just reducing your suffering, you're also opening the door to growth and new opportunities. This practice isn't limited to big, life-altering events. It applies to the small, everyday moments too. Maybe it's accepting that your morning commute is longer than you'd like, or that a loved one has a habit that irritates you. In each of these moments, acceptance allows us to let go of the struggle and find peace in the present. Over time, this mindset becomes a habit, helping us navigate life's challenges with greater ease and resilience. So here's a reflective question to consider. What's one thing you need to accept right now? It could be a difficult truth, an uncomfortable situation, or even just a small inconvenience. By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing acceptance, you're reclaiming your peace and your power. Acceptance, as the Stoics understood it, isn't about passivity, it's about clarity. It's a reminder that while we can't always control what happens, we can always choose how we respond. And in that choice, we find a deeper, more enduring kind of freedom, one that allows us to face life's challenges with calm, courage, and grace. What if you desired only what is good for you? It's a question that might feel challenging at first, especially in a world that constantly pushes us to want more success, more possessions, more recognition. But the Stoics offer a different perspective. They believe that true freedom comes not from fulfilling every desire, but from aligning our desires with what is virtuous and meaningful. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it simply, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." His words remind us that when our desires are rooted in virtue rather than external validation, we liberate ourselves from the endless chase for more and find peace in what truly matters. At its core, the discipline of desire is about clarity. It's about asking ourselves, what do I really want and why? So often, we pursue things: a bigger house, a better job, more social media followers, without questioning whether they align with our deeper values. The Stoics would argue that when we desire things that are outside our control or tied to fleeting pleasures, we set ourselves up for disappointment. But when we focus on what is within our control, our own growth, our relationships, our contributions to the world, we find a sense of fulfillment that isn't dependent on external circumstances. This practice doesn't mean we stop striving or dreaming. Instead, it's about redirecting our energy toward what truly enriches our lives. Think about it. When you set a goal, is it something that will bring lasting satisfaction or just a temporary boost? For example, instead of desiring the latest gadget or a flashy promotion, what if you aim to cultivate patience, kindness, or resilience? These virtues aren't just abstract ideals, they're qualities that improve not only your own life, but also the lives of those around you. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're scrolling through social media and feel a pang of envy as you see someone's seemingly perfect vacation photos. In that moment, the discipline of desire asks you to pause and reflect. Is this something I truly want, or am I just comparing myself to an idealized version of someone else's life? By shifting your focus to what you already have, a supportive family, a fulfilling project, or even just a quiet moment to yourself, you're not just reducing envy, you're cultivating gratitude and contentment. The beauty of this practice lies in its simplicity. You don't need to overhaul your entire life to start benefiting from it. Begin by identifying one desire that feels out of alignment with your values. Maybe it's the urge to constantly check your phone for notifications, the need to prove yourself in every conversation, or even just the craving for a sugary treat when you know it doesn't serve you. By choosing to let go of that one desire, you're not just practicing self-control, you're reclaiming your freedom. So, here's a question to reflect on. What's one desire you can let go of today? It doesn't have to be a massive life change. It could be as simple as resisting the urge to compare yourself to others, or choosing to focus on a meaningful goal instead of a fleeting distraction. By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing the discipline of desire, you're creating space for what truly matters. The Stoic discipline of desire isn't about deprivation, it's about liberation. It's a reminder that when we align our desires with what is virtuous and meaningful, we free ourselves from the endless pursuit of external validation. And in that freedom, we find a deeper, more enduring kind of happiness, one that isn't tied to what we have, but to who we are and how we choose to live. It's a practice that doesn't just change what we desire, it changes how we experience life itself. What if you forgave those who hurt you? It's a question that might feel uncomfortable at first, especially when the wounds are still fresh. But the Stoics saw forgiveness not as a sign of weakness, but as a profound act of strength and liberation. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, captured this perfectly when he said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." His words remind us that holding on to resentment doesn't punish the person who hurt us, it punishes us. By clinging to anger or bitterness, we give that person power over our emotions, our peace, and even our future. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, isn't about excusing harmful behavior or pretending the hurt didn't happen. It's about freeing ourselves from the emotional weight of resentment. Think about it. When you hold a grudge, who carries the burden? It's not the other person, it's you. Every time you replay the hurt in your mind, you're reliving the pain, allowing it to take up space in your thoughts and energy in your life. Forgiveness is the act of saying, "I won't let this control me anymore." It's a gift you give yourself, not the person who wronged you. This practice isn't just theoretical, it's deeply practical. Let's bring it to life with an example. Imagine a colleague takes credit for your work in a meeting, leaving you feeling undervalued and frustrated. Your first instinct might be to hold onto that anger, to let it simmer and shape how you interact with them moving forward. But what if instead you chose to forgive? This doesn't mean you ignore the situation or fail to set boundaries. It simply means you release the emotional grip it has on you. By forgiving, you're not erasing what happened, you're choosing to move forward without letting it define you. The Stoic approach to forgiveness also encourages us to see the humanity in others. Often, the people who hurt us are acting out of their own pain, fear, or ignorance. When we forgive, we're not just letting go of resentment, we're also recognizing that everyone, including ourselves, makes mistakes. This perspective doesn't excuse their actions, but it can help us approach the situation with greater empathy and understanding. Here's a reflective question to consider: who do you need to forgive and why? It could be someone who betrayed your trust, a loved one who said something hurtful, or even yourself for a past mistake. Take a moment to really think about it. What's holding you back from letting go, and what would it feel like to release that burden? By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing forgiveness, you're reclaiming your peace and your power. Forgiveness, as the Stoics understood it, isn't about forgetting or condoning. It's about choosing to live freely, unburdened by the weight of resentment. It's a reminder that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. And in that response, we find not just freedom, but a deeper, more enduring kind of peace. It's a practice that doesn't just change how we relate to others, it changes how we relate to ourselves. And in that shift, we discover a strength we might not have known we had. What if you treated everyone with fairness? It's a question that might feel simple at first, but beneath it lies one of the most profound Stoic virtues: justice. For the Stoics, justice wasn't just about following laws or rules. It was about living with integrity, treating others with respect, and striving to create harmony in our relationships and communities. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, captured this beautifully when he wrote, "What is not good for the swarm is not good for the bee." His words remind us that fairness isn't just a personal ideal, it's a principle that connects us all. When we act with justice, we're not just benefiting others, we're strengthening the collective well-being of everyone around us. At its core, justice is about balance. It's about recognizing the inherent worth of every person and ensuring that our actions reflect that recognition. Think about it. How often do we make decisions based on convenience or self-interest without considering how they might affect others? The Stoics believed that true justice requires us to step outside our own perspective and consider the broader impact of our choices. It's not just about being fair when it's easy, it's about standing up for fairness even when it's hard. This principle isn't just theoretical, it's deeply practical. Let's bring it to life with an example. Imagine you're in a meeting at work and a colleague proposes an idea that's quickly dismissed by the group. Instead of staying silent, you speak up, pointing out the value in their suggestion and advocating for a fair discussion. By doing this, you're not just supporting your colleague, you're fostering an environment where everyone feels heard and respected. That's the power of justice in action. It builds trust, strengthens relationships, and creates a sense of shared purpose. The Stoic approach to justice also emphasizes consistency. It's not enough to be fair in one situation and indifferent in another. True justice requires us to act with integrity in every interaction, whether it's with a close friend, a stranger, or even someone we disagree with. This might mean standing up for someone who's being treated unfairly, even if it's unpopular. Or it could mean admitting when we've made a mistake and taking steps to make things right. Each act of fairness, no matter how small, contributes to a more harmonious and equitable world. So, here's a reflective question to consider. How can you practice fairness today? Maybe it's as simple as listening more attentively to someone who often goes unheard, or as bold as advocating for a cause you believe in. Whatever it is, take a moment to think about how your actions can reflect the Stoic virtue of justice. By engaging with this question, you're not just reflecting on fairness, you're taking a step toward creating a world where everyone feels valued and respected. Justice, as the Stoics understood it, isn't just a lofty ideal, it's a daily practice. It's a reminder that our actions matter, not just to ourselves, but to the people and communities around us. And in that practice, we find not just a deeper sense of connection, but a more enduring kind of peace. Fairness isn't just something we do for others. It's something we do for ourselves, for our communities, and for the world we share. It's a virtue that doesn't just change how we act, it changes how we live. What if you stopped overindulging? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive in a world that often celebrates excess, whether it's food, entertainment, or even work. But the Stoics saw moderation as a cornerstone of a balanced and fulfilling life. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it simply, it is quality rather than quantity that matters. His words remind us that true satisfaction doesn't come from having more or doing more. It comes from finding the right balance. Moderation isn't about depriving ourselves, it's about creating space for what truly enriches our lives. At its core, moderation is about self-awareness. It's about recognizing when enough is enough and choosing to step back before excess takes over. Think about it. How often do we overindulge, whether it's binge watching a show late into the night, scrolling endlessly on social media, or even overcommitting ourselves at work? While these things might feel satisfying in the moment, they often leave us feeling drained, distracted, or unfulfilled. The Stoics believed that by practicing moderation, we not only protect our physical and mental health, but also create room for deeper, more meaningful experiences. This principle isn't just about avoiding excess, it's about cultivating balance. Let's bring it to life with a practical example. Imagine you're trying to improve your focus and productivity. Instead of working long hours without breaks, you set clear boundaries. Maybe you work in focused intervals, take regular breaks, and unplug completely at the end of the day. By moderating your work habits, you're not just preventing burnout, you're also creating space for rest, creativity, and connection. The same applies to other areas of life like diet, exercise, or even leisure. When we approach these things with moderation, we're not just surviving, we're thriving. The Stoic practice of moderation also encourages us to reflect on our habits and choices. It's easy to fall into patterns of overindulgence without even realizing it. Maybe we reach for our phone first thing in the morning, or we find ourselves mindlessly snacking while watching TV. By pausing to notice these habits, we can make intentional choices that align with our values and goals. It's not about perfection, it's about progress, small, consistent steps toward a more balanced life. So, here's a reflective question to consider. What's one area where you can practice moderation today? Maybe it's limiting your screen time, setting boundaries around work, or even just savoring your meals more mindfully. By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing moderation, you're reclaiming your time, your energy, and your peace. Moderation, as the Stoics understood it, isn't about restriction, it's about freedom. It's a reminder that when we step back from excess, we create space for what truly matters: connection, growth, and joy. It's a practice that doesn't just change how we live, it changes how we feel, moment by moment, day by day. And in that balance, we find a deeper, more enduring kind of fulfillment. What if you leaned on others in tough times? It's a question that might feel vulnerable to ask, but it's at the heart of one of the most overlooked Stoic practices, the power of community. While Stoicism often emphasizes self-reliance and inner strength, it also recognizes that we are not meant to face life's challenges alone. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it simply, no man is an island. His words remind us that connection and support are not signs of weakness, they are essential to our resilience and growth. At its core, community is about recognizing our shared humanity. The Stoics believed that we are all part of a larger whole, interconnected by our experiences, struggles, and aspirations. When we lean on others, we're not just seeking comfort, we're tapping into a collective strength that helps us endure and overcome. Think about it. When you've faced a difficult moment, hasn't it been easier to carry the weight when someone was there to share it with you? Whether it's a friend who listens, a mentor who guides, or even a stranger who offers a kind word, these connections remind us that we're not alone. This Stoic principle isn't just about receiving support, it's also about giving it. When we show up for others, we're not just helping them, we're strengthening our own sense of purpose and belonging. Imagine a time when you offered encouragement to someone in need. Didn't it feel meaningful to know you made a difference, even in a small way? The Stoics saw this exchange of support as a reflection of our shared humanity, a reminder that we rise together when we lift one another. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're going through a challenging period at work. Maybe a project isn't going as planned, or you're feeling overwhelmed by deadlines. Instead of isolating yourself and trying to push through alone, you reach out to a trusted colleague or mentor. By sharing your struggles, you're not just lightening your load, you're also opening the door to new perspectives, advice, and solutions. This act of connection doesn't just help you navigate the challenge, it also strengthens your relationships and builds trust. The beauty of community lies in its accessibility. You don't need a large network to start benefiting from it. It could be as simple as confiding in a close friend, joining a support group, or even seeking guidance from an online community. Each act of reaching out, no matter how small, creates a ripple effect, reminding us that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. So here's a reflective question to consider. Who can you reach out to for support today? It doesn't have to be a major request. Maybe it's a quick conversation with a loved one, a message to someone you trust, or even just a moment to express gratitude for the people who have been there for you. By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing the Stoic value of connection, you're building a network of resilience that can carry you through life's toughest moments. The power of community isn't just about surviving challenges, it's about thriving within them. It's a reminder that while we are strong on our own, we are even stronger together. And in that strength, we find not just support, but a deeper, more enduring kind of peace, one that comes from knowing we're never truly alone. What if you didn't give up, no matter what? It's a question that cuts to the heart of one of the most enduring Stoic virtues, perseverance. The Stoics believed that persistence in the face of adversity isn't just a trait of the strong, it's a skill anyone can cultivate. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, famously wrote, "The obstacle is the way." His words remind us that challenges aren't roadblocks, they're opportunities to grow. When we choose to keep going, even when the path is steep, we're not just overcoming obstacles, we're transforming them into stepping stones. Perseverance is more than just stubbornness or grit. It's about aligning our actions with purpose, even when the journey feels overwhelming. Think about it. How often do we give up on a goal or a dream because the effort feels too great or the results seem too far away? The Stoics would argue that the struggle itself is where the growth happens. Each time we push through a difficult moment, we're not just moving closer to our goal, we're building the resilience and determination that will serve us in every area of life. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine you're working on a long-term project. Maybe it's writing a book, building a business, or even training for a marathon. There will be days when progress feels slow, when setbacks seem insurmountable, and when the temptation to quit feels overwhelming. In those moments, perseverance isn't just about continuing, it's about finding meaning in the effort itself. Maybe it's the discipline you're developing, the lessons you're learning, or even the small, incremental wins that keep you moving forward. Each step, no matter how small, is a testament to your commitment and your strength. This Stoic virtue isn't just for grand, life-altering goals. It applies to the everyday challenges too. Maybe it's sticking to a new habit, even when it feels uncomfortable, or staying patient in a difficult relationship. Each time you choose to persist, you're not just achieving a goal, you're reinforcing a mindset that sees obstacles not as barriers but as opportunities. So here's a question to reflect on. What's one thing you can keep working on even when it's hard? It could be a personal goal, a professional project, or even a mindset you're trying to cultivate. Take a moment to really think about it. What's driving you? What's at stake? And most importantly, what's the lesson or growth that comes from continuing even when it feels tough? By engaging with this question, you're not just practicing perseverance, you're embracing the Stoic belief that every challenge is a chance to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Perseverance isn't just about reaching the finish line, it's about the strides you take along the way. It's a reminder that the obstacles we face aren't just tests of our endurance, they're invitations to rise to our potential. And in that rising, we find not just success, but a deeper, more enduring kind of strength. As we come to the end of this journey through 30 empowering Stoic techniques, it's clear that these ancient practices are far more than philosophical musings. They're actionable tools for navigating the complexities of modern life. From the dichotomy of control to the discipline of desire, from negative visualization to the art of silence, each technique offers a unique way to maintain calm in high-pressure moments. Together, they form a powerful framework for building resilience, clarity, and inner peace. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions or retreating from the world. It's about engaging with life more fully, with a steady mind and an open heart. It's about recognizing that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can always control how we respond. Whether you're facing a stressful work deadline, navigating a difficult relationship, or simply trying to stay grounded in a chaotic world, these techniques provide a roadmap for staying centered and purposeful. Seneca once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." These words remind us that challenges aren't obstacles to avoid, their opportunities to grow. Each time we apply these Stoic principles, we're not just managing stress or overcoming adversity. We're building the mental and emotional strength to thrive, no matter what life throws our way. Now it's your turn to take these insights and make them your own. Which of these techniques resonates most with you? Is it the grounding power of Memento Mori, the empowering shift of Amor Fati, or perhaps the quiet strength of Equanimity? Whatever speaks to you, consider how you can weave it into your daily life. Start small, practice gratitude in the morning, pause before reacting in a heated moment, or take 5 minutes each evening to reflect on your day. Over time, these small habits will transform how you experience life's pressures and challenges. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Stoic wisdom. If you found these techniques helpful, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share in the comments which one stood out to you and how you plan to apply it. And if you're eager to dive deeper into Stoicism, don't forget to subscribe for more insights and practical tools to live with greater calm and purpose. Remember, the journey to a more resilient, balanced life begins with a single step. Take that step today and watch how these timeless principles can transform not just your mindset, but your entire